And welcome back to part two. Whenever Daniel Danovi and Majona and I get together, it goes for a while.
Good times roll.
It is. It is. We don't let time stand in our way of a good conversation. Daniel, welcome back to part two of the Subconscious Mind podcast, the COVID-19 bunker edition, if you will.
Miles and miles apart.
Yes, we are. We are indeed, and that's the way it should be right now. We're doing our thing. We're doing it the way that we are, being compliant with what is good practice these days. So in the last podcast, we're just going to roll right on. If folks are joining this one, they're dropping in out of the sky and landing here. We did a part one that you could pick up first. But separately from that, you had a story that you said was just really gripping and actually could have been something like everybody today is like, if I get this, will I die? And it picks up from there.
Well, this story, there's multiple lessons inside of it. And it came to me at a time when I was investigating a lot of the Seth material on the original channeling that said you create your reality and your point of power is now. And I was learning about expanding and contracting time and probable realities and multiple timelines. And it was January 1995, 96, about January 16th, I think. And at the time I was a courier for Federal Express and I was working in northern Michigan. And if you don't have a relationship with snow, there was 11 inches of snow on the ground, and it had previously been like in the 20s. On this particular day, it had gotten up to about 35, and it was balmy. It felt like spring.
And it was probably June or July, too.
Right? When you go from a 20 and then suddenly you're at 35 and 32 degrees is freezing, 35, the rays of the sun were coming down, the birds were singing, and the snow was beginning to melt. And it just felt like a great day. But at 11 o'clock, I'm in this resort town that I was on my route. And suddenly I got hit with the feeling, the ominous feeling that today I was going to buy it. I was going to die. I was going to encounter an accident. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm looking at every intersection and left and right. Like, is it now? Is it now? It's like, and there was this fear that was coming over me because I knew it was coming. It's just one of those in your bone knowings. And I said, this is ridiculous. And of course, I'm talking to myself. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to spend the rest of my day in fear waiting to die. It's like I create my reality. So I started looking at, and this gets into the society of the cooperative co-creation aspect of it. I realized that on some level, I made an agreement to have a rendezvous with this person at some point in time. And I began questioning, so what belief was there? What's the sponsoring belief that would make this possible? Well, with insurance statistics, if you drive a certain number of miles, sooner or later, you're going to have an accident. And I was fast approaching my 1,000,000-mile mark as a driver from age 16. And I bought into that idea that if you drive so many miles, you're going to have an accident. So anytime I had a little dinky-do, like, hit a fixed object, a bumper or something like that, I thought, oh, there's my accident. But I had this belief that if you drive, an accident is a high probability at some point. Well, I had the good fortune of having a compatriot, my wingman that worked next to me, Claire McNally, who never, ever had an accident. And I asked him, he says, not even in your personal car? Nope, never. And that just baffled me. How could you never have an accident? And I thought, that's a belief. So I thought I'm going to adopt the belief that I'm not participating in accidents from here on out. And every time the fear came up in my mind that this was coming, that there was an accident coming, in my mind's eye, I took the image and I pulled it and push it down to the lower left. Now that's an NLP technique, playing with submodalities, gaining distance and minimizing the image. So I shrunk it down and made it dull. I basically pushed it aside and said, I reject this. I reject that possibility. And then, of course, you don't want to just leave it with what you're resisting or what you don't want to happen. So as soon as I said, I reject this, I ushered in what I am creating is I realized that I agreed to have some kind of experience. I'll be there, but everyone will have the experience that they need, yet walk away safely. And every time that fear came up, I pushed it aside and said, I reject this. I'm inviting in this other opportunity, this other possibility. And the original feeling came on at 11 o'clock. I did this in between every stop, continuously until 1:30. And then at 1:30, the feeling of fear just disappeared. It just went away. And then I forgot about it. And in January, the sun goes down sometime around at 5 o'clock in Michigan. And as soon as the sun went down, I was finishing up my day. I cleared with my dispatcher to head back in. It was 80-mile drive back. And this started to get cold again. So as I got on the highway, heading back again, I forgot all about this situation. And I began to notice that it was lightly misting and it was beginning to freeze around the outside of my windshield. And then the rear end just gave way a little bit, the traction on the rear tires. And suddenly I said, this is it. And as soon as I said, this is it, off into the left-hand field of my vision, I saw a red Grand Prix leave the road on the opposite side of the highway and start driving through the median, plowing through the snow, heading right for my door, the driver's door. And I can remember yelling, no, like this isn't supposed to happen this way. And as soon as I yelled no, it's almost as if everything slowed down for a second or two and then sped back up. And that was just enough time for us to miss. And I knew it was going to miss me. I looked in my rear view. That guy did a 360 in the highway, cars all around. And then he slid back into the median backwards. Never hit anybody. No one got, and then I saw people starting to pull over. And so I figured he had his experience. I had my experience and I drove on.
Wow.
And so this is, some people said, well, I jumped timelines. If all time happens simultaneously, and I believe more that I attracted a different probability. Any possibility, probable future is out there for you to plug into. It's which one do you choose? And in that moment, I chose a different outcome. And I recognize the fact that we do co-create, and there are sponsoring beliefs. And according to Seth, that if you have a belief that something is a probability for you, like someone says, I could get sick, then that is on your radar. It's a possibility. And in 1995, when I declared that I wasn't going to get sick anymore, like I noticed that on my employee calendar that I specifically got sick with the flu, with flu-like symptoms, predictably in November, in around Christmas, which coincides with peak season for, the package industry. And then again in January, and then March. And year after year, like I got sick every time. I go, I immediately saw if there's a pattern to it, that's totally my mind. And so I stopped believing or participating in sickness. And knock on wood, Well, that creates a process that actually, that knock on wood, suggests that could be a victim somewhere down the road. No, I'm just not participating in sickness. I'm in the being of wellness. And do you have another little story? Time for a little story
Sure.
about the whole being the cure?
Sure.
And I get this from Wayne Dyer. And he told the story of how in feudal Japan, there used to be opium dens. And if you had enough money, you could sit and lay in that opium den until you're dead or your money ran out. And so these, you highly addictive, and invariably your money would run out. And when it did, they would kick you out in the street. Like, you're gone. And so the street was littered with opium addicts. Well, the Shaolin monks would come in and start gathering up these men and nurse them back to health. And they taught them to be more than an addiction. They said that their body had an addiction and taught them how to be the cure, how to be health and wellness. And in being this is how you align your heart with your mind and your body. It's congruence. And when you're congruently being in the world in health and wellness, is your nutrition aligned? Are your practices, is your thinking aligned with health and wellness? Then there is no room for sickness. There's no possibility for it. And so for years, I was being health and wellness. And I would invoke that in anytime I would feel something. And I'm in the plan, in the process of being health and wellness. It's the idea that you can't be a little bit lost. You're either on your way or you're lost. And a lot of people declare themselves lost. And once you're lost, that's the only way you can be. There's no place to go. You're lost. And I love the quote from Daniel Boone that says, "I've never been lost, but I was once bewildered for about 3 days." And it's in that thinking, it's like he was always on his way to his destination. It's just that he wasn't quite sure of where he was at that moment in relationship to where he wanted to be. And so I hear it all the time. People say I'm stuck, or I'm lost, or I don't know what to do. It's like, be in the idea that you're on your way to somewhere. You're in the process of finding where you're the closest path to your destination, and you're always on the path. The moment you declare yourself stuck, that's the only way you can be. There's no room for anything else. So being the cure, being health and wellness.
Let's turn it to the economic side. We've talked a lot about the medical and the physical side, but a lot of people are facing perhaps maybe not so much a health risk, or they might weather the storm just fine. They're not in the high risk category, but the economic side of the toll of this is hitting them hard. What would you say to them? How would you apply it that way?
Well, one is the idea that you can have your own personal economy, that you don't have to be plugged into the mass consciousness. So what are the different ways of doing that? One is, you may be called to start your own business. It could be a side business. It could be following your passion. And when we're trying to make something happen is usually when we create the most resistance. And by being aligned with, where's your passion? What have you been called to always do at this point in time? Let's say your job or your career vaporized, and you suddenly find yourself, jobless. Going back to my original question that I give, my clients is, what does this now make possible? And considering probable realities, what belief do you have right now that's getting in the way of you generating your own income, of generating, a completely different revenue stream? Like, you were talking to me the other day, and you have, different multiple streams of income coming in, different projects, and they started out as passion projects to a certain degree. with the audiobooks. And, that is a stream of income. So in the day of the internet, there's a lot of different ways to make income or to do things. The way we work may completely change. So part of the thing that keeps us stuck is our unwillingness to be flexible. It reminds me of a biology term called requisite variety. It's the idea that organisms' rate of survival is directly related to their ability to adapt to a changing environment. If you only have one way of being in the world, then chances are you're going to go extinct.
That's true.
And if this is an age of transformation, it is opening up to new possibilities and letting go of old concepts of who we thought we were. And really, our self-concept is nothing more than an idea of who we think we are or what people have told us we are. It's not who we really are.
I did one the other day. I don't think I told you this, but Majona has this habit that's really dangerous. It's called Groupon. Have you heard of that?
Who has a habit?
I have heard of that.
She was Grouponing the other day, and she said, and this was something that I had seen in my astrology chart, so we had talked about it on a number of walks, and it was a real estate course. Get your real estate license. And here was this multi-$100 course that was on sale for just a couple of $100. And I just leaned into it. I just bought the course, and I searched the company, of course. I did some research. There were several there to choose from. And I just got the real estate course, not because when all this is over, I'm going to go out and sell houses, maybe. But I know that in my astrology chart and in my personal history, I've done really well around that area. So there's an energy, there's a vibration that resonates well with that area. And we've even talked about some possibilities around real estate development when this is over that might be in demand on the other side of this. So that was kind of one of those, I like the term Mike Dooley uses, pitches to the universe, where I don't have an agenda, but I've, through this time, I'm going to manage my time so that I can complete this course in a timely period. And then we'll see what's on the other side, but at least I'll have another skill in the toolbox.
Absolutely. Most people don't realize just how many viable skills they have. You can take any job you have and break it down into several different categorical skills that any one of them could be making you money on the side. If you've been in the workforce for any time whatsoever, one of the things I teach some of my clients to do is go back over every job, whether you got paid for it or not, over your entire life, every hobby that you had, and just write down all the skills involved in performing that job, in functioning in that hobby. And there are invariably very economical or money generating skills there that could be farmed out, or, there's so many different possibilities for making money.
Yeah. And I think I've said this on here too, that after this, there's going to be a whole new industry created that should last for at least a couple of decades, if not longer, around preventing this kind of thing in the future. So that's going to be anything from like the business you were in of basically moving supplies from one area to another to defensive protections for when this happens again. And then there will be healthcare jobs that will open up from this. I mean, there's just a whole plethora of things that will be on the other side of this that will offer options and opportunities, and many people will become millionaires very fast on the other side of this.
Well, you had asked me before in the previous podcast what projects that I might be taking on, and one of them is I have a course or a talk that I give called Epic Vitality, and it's all based on psychoneuroimmunology, and how do we boost our immune system by regulating stress, how to based on our thinking, our word choice, and the images that we create in our mind. How do we build immunity? How do we build epic vitality? Most people have never made the decision to be epically healthy. It's in the old phrase, when you have your health, you have 1,000 dreams. And when your health is on decline, you have only one.
Mm-hmm.
That's to get healthy.
Get it back.
And if nothing else in this time and age, you're going to see a whole new, industry open up around immunity and lifestyle choices in, Zoom. I wish I had bought stock in Zoom. So these different platforms, and we will be interacting in a different way, but I don't see us, the social distancing lasting forever. It's just not how we're built as human beings.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to get past that in a non-vaccine way. And that comes back to that stuff that you and I both believe in, and Kimberly believes in, Majona believes in, but the FDA won't let us mention it on here. And now I guess Facebook's going to turn you into the WHO if you talk about colloidal silver. Oh, about about that substance that seems to have tremendous health effects. But anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole. But yes, there will be. And maybe even that does become viable. I don't know. You got to stand up against Big Pharma on that. But yes, absolutely. And there are ways, if you are attentive and open and watching and looking and saying, how can I apply my skill set or learn a new skill set in this new environment that's going to be created? It really will be quite prolific on the other side of this. And I think much better economically in the end than what we even had before.
It just popped in my head. There's a quick little process that I learned from Robert Schuller of the minister of the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove, California. He used to do this thing called count to 10 and win. So one of the ways when you're looking at money-making opportunities, let's say you want to make $1 million. So at the very top, you number it from 1 to 10. One way to make $1 million is sell something for $1 million. 2 is to sell 2 things for 500,000. And you just break it down until you're, getting a dollar from 1 million people. So then it usually, one of those scenarios fits into your mindset or into your concept of what's easiest for you to make money. And that begins an approach. And then you start looking, in this day and age, when I was doing this early on, you didn't have the internet. But you could look at all the different ways you can make money in a particular industry. And with access to specific communities, you can niche down and to find, 46. I have a client who is only presenting health and fitness, working with men 40 to 65, only men. And it's those that were once in shape and find themselves out of shape and they want to get back in shape, and just dealing with the metabolic processes of an older man, or what they call someone with the dad body. And so he has niched down to very specific, and then he's not even doing it in the gyms. He'll go to your home and do workshops there, train you right there. So it's very niche. It's very specific. And you just start advertising, you start finding out where those guys congregate, and he had a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are all great ideas.
When I was in college, I remember meeting somebody in the cafeteria that was from, I don't remember what country. And his comment was, Americans are so used to the way they live, they can't see the forest for the trees. They think it's so hard. You have to work so hard to make money here. That's why so many foreigners come over and do very well, because we see all the abundance that's available. You're looking through a different lens. And through the years, I've thought about that. I'm like, I exemplify that statement. I've done many, many things in my life. I know I have many skill sets, but I still look at me going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm good at or what niche I should fill. So I think a strategy that's very helpful is to just ask people that know you well. Hey, what could you see me doing? You know Mindy Ottlin, right, Daniel? Yeah, her What If Up is perfect for that. Have you heard of her program?
No, I haven't.
She's done this for, years and years. And when we can all be together, basically one activity is one person stands in the middle of a group and that's in a circle, and you just pose a question or what you perceive as a problem. I would like to something, but I'm stuck. And everybody it's like brainstorming, right? They just throw ideas out. Well, what if you did this? What if you, and it's amazing how things just build and you get new ideas. What if up?
Well, I love that. I love that whole process of brainstorming. And I just want to throw out there, when you're in the process of brainstorming, do not judge what comes out of your mouth. Like, throw as much spaghetti as you can against the wall, see what sticks, and don't even sift through it till a day or two later. Because it's, you can look at all kinds of inventions like Post-it notes and, Velcro that originally had no use. It was, the Post-it notes was based on a glue that did not stick. And it's like, how can we utilize this? And they came up with, there was Roger Van Ock, who taught creativity, and Tony Buzan. They would have this exercise where you would try and come up with 200 uses for a paperclip. And I've taught that in my courses. And, it's amazing the things you can come up with once you start releasing the limit, getting outside the limits of your mind. And, this is subconscious mind mastery. It's realizing that you have patterns that you live inside. And one way to live creatively is to begin entertaining the question, the what if I wasn't this person? What if I did have all the skills? What if I did know? Like you were saying earlier, like, I don't know what I want to do. And it's like using your imagination. And what if I did know? Where might I begin? Where would I start? And but not qualifying, like let your subconscious, your other than conscious run rampant and write down as many different ideas without judgment or qualifying them to begin with. And just seeing what you can come up with. Could you come up with 100 different ways to make money? It could, the first thing that popped in my head, I could be a prostitute. It's an honorable living. But then, how many services could be like that people go outside, or it could be cleaning the house. It could be washing cars. All that stuff is based around service. And so you can take one concept and create a satellite of ideas around that basic concept. There's that.
All kinds of possibilities. Good.
There was one question that threw out that just popped in my head. It was mentioned, and I've seen it mentioned a couple of times in the Subconscious Mind Mastery Facebook page, is what do you do if your spouse or your significant other doesn't share the same view on creating, on law of attraction that you do? Or maybe they're focused on stinking thinking. And so how do you deal with that? And part of it goes back to creating your own personal ecology in economy. And there's a couple rules. One, if you want to create something and it's outside of the realm of what you've done before, keep it to yourself until you build enough momentum, enough of your own belief system that it will propel it past any judgment, any criticism. Most of the time we want to share it, and some people say that my partner is such a negative thinker. And, I believe in monogamy. I believe in long-lasting marriages, but you may have to make the decision. Maybe you've grown to a point where you no longer have a shared vision for your life. But I would discuss it with them first. And, before you automatically make the decision, because they may be willing to change if they know that the stakes are that high.
Give them a
Some
chance.
give them a chance.
If they don't listen to the first 50 episodes of this podcast, then you've got your ticket. You got our permission granted.
But we create our reality to the degree that we're willing to basically give a F you to everybody else. Because the moment we begin acquiescing what we want and our choices and what intuitively comes within us to appease other people, that's where our creative ability stops. Because you many times to create the life that you're really intending for or intended, and I had to make this decision in my first marriage, is that I realized that what I wanted to create for my life didn't fit into the paradigm or the confines, the context of the marriage I had created. And there's a great book called In the Meantime, which talks about meantime situations and meantime lovers and meantime, like you're in this experience for the meantime to get between here and there. It's the getting through the going through. And you may have to make a decision that, you need to create a different relationship or just change the rules inside your current relationship. And sometimes you just have to let people be and love them for who they are, as much, filled with stinking thinking or, limited perspective as they have.
Yeah. It becomes a very individual situation, case by case of whatever works for you. I told you, in fact, I think you probably know this person, but coached me for a while. She came through our mutual roots of Landmark, who she and her husband have been together for about 30 years. And what they did is every year on their anniversary, they would go to dinner and they would have a basically re-up, if you will, for the next year. And their agreement, this is just what worked for them, right? But their deal was if you re-up for the next year, you're all in until the next year's review. But their deal with each other was if either of us want out to step away from it, then on that anniversary, we can negotiate that separation. And they had 2 beautiful daughters and did very well successfully in chasing the abundance and stayed together for all those years. But it just worked for them to say, it's not like you're trapped here. And if by choice you want to leave, you're free to go.
I love that. I used to be very much against divorce or breaking, ending a relationship. But, you don't really want somebody with you that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm all for that agreement. I love that re-upping, recommitting.
And some people have said, well, it might be that you'd want to maybe not make it a full year because if in that year things start to go downhill, you might want a back door. But then I think that gets into other things of, the other part of what they created was commitment for a defined period of time, and it's a period of time that you could live with. So even 3 months in, if something happened, let's say even somebody was unfaithful 3 months in, well, you've got a year, you've got 9 months left to say, we're going to either figure this out or, that was a deal killer. You can expect what our next meeting will be. I'm telling you now. But at least it gives you time to work through it. I think there is some brilliance designed into that for sure.
I'm a big proponent of the value of commitment, because I think too many marriages end early because they're not truly committed. It's like, if things go smoothly for now, and commitment is that you get the value of staying the course, even when there's bumps in the road. And and I looked at committing in my marriage. It's like, I'm committed because I get the value of whatever difficulty, whatever argument, and whatever, and we've had, a couple doozies, and where you question, am I with the right person? And, you look at what you're committed to and you stay the course. And things usually get better. It's born out of that commitment, because it's easy to change directions. It's easy to take, different paths because it seems easier. But is it the best route? Is it what you want your life to be about? those are the bigger questions you need to ask.
Yeah.
And just because you're committed, you need to look at it in the context of who you want to be in the world. You want to look at it in the context of, what do you really want to create?
My only piece that I want to throw in there is, because I completely agree with the whole commitment thing, unless there's abuse, and abuse is never okay. Get out.
I 100% agree. Don't ask if or when, just go.
Just go.
Yeah.
Yep. And if it happened once, it's going to happen again. So don't stay around for strike 2. Just go.
There used to be this thing in our world called baseball.
In big coliseums.
In the baseball analogy, you are playing a game in a one strike, you're out inning. There is no second out. One strike, you're out. That's it.
That's a mic drop moment right there. One strike, you're out.
All right. Well, thank you very much again. Thanks for being with us and for sharing some time and your wisdom and your thoughts and your insights on what's going on and how we can up our game and make it better.
But before I leave, I would like to extend an invitation. I just set up a Facebook group that I'd like to invite people to. It's called the Extreme Gratitude Project.
Awesome.
And I've only got like maybe 10, 15 people that have enrolled so far, but I'm going to really kick things off. And it's all about really getting, gratitude down to where you make that the focus and appreciation for a month. Like you go to an extreme measure for 30 days and just see how it changes your perspective on the world and your connection to abundance.
Awesome. So is that a closed group? Do they just join? Is it automatically you're in, or how does it work?
They apply, and I check to make sure that you're a real person, that you have a profile, and then you're in.
All right.
And then if you abuse the situation, I'll kick you out. It's my group. But I want to make sure that the energy's right. And, if you're connected to this podcast, there's usually a spike to, people investigating what I'm up to. So it's just the Extreme Gratitude Project.
Good. On Facebook. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, stay safe. And when we can get back together, we'll do another trio in the booth here. That'll be fun.
Fantastic. I look forward to it.
And Daniel's contact information is in the show notes. It's danov.com, but don't worry about the spelling. Just go to the show notes and you can click from there. His email is there as well. And obviously,
enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey.